Hey boys, hope you had fun with the Stices and their farm. Hope you're still having fun. Um, no Pokemon stuff today. I haven't really been involved this Sunday here, so I'm gonna jump right into Genesis. We're in chapter 39. Okay, here we go. Now Joseph had been taken to Egypt. An Egyptian named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, serving in the household of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with Joseph, and that the Lord made everything he did successful, Joseph found favor in his master's sight and became his personal attendant. Potiphar also put him in charge of his household and placed all that he owned under Joseph's authority. From the time that he put Joseph in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house because of Joseph. The Lord's blessing was on all that he owned, in his house and in his fields. He left all that he owned under Joseph's authority. He did not concern himself with anything except the food that he ate. So, Joseph was sold as a slave, and you guys may be somewhat familiar with slavery from history, right? Especially slavery in America a couple hundred years ago. But slavery was a little different back in these times when there were people who were very wealthy. A lot of people would voluntarily sell themselves as slaves. And they would earn some money, and they would sometimes they would have a chance to no longer be a slave and have their freedom again, things like that. Joseph obviously was sold, but this was apparently a situation where he could do well. And when the master saw that he was a hard worker, and especially when the master saw how God blessed everything Joseph did, Joseph became the word the text uses here is successful. So it's like things went well. It was in a bad situation, but because Joseph worked hard and because God blessed him, things were going well for Joseph. Until something happened. Let's read about that. By the way, we think Joseph was about 17 when he was sold by his brothers. So he was, think of that, 6 or 7 years older than Daniel. Okay? Remember, in this culture, a lot of times you became a man and started working when you were 13. So keep that in mind. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. After some time, his master's wife looked longingly at Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But Joseph refused. "Look," he said to his master's wife, "with me here my master does not concern himself with anything in his house, and he has put all that he owns under my authority. No one in this house is greater than I am. He has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. So how could I do such a great evil and sin against God?" So the wife wanted Joseph basically to commit adultery, to treat Potiphar's wife like she was Joseph's wife, and that is a sin. Although she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her. Now one day he went into the house to do his work, and none of the household servants were there. Potiphar's wife grabbed him by his garment and said, "Come to bed with me." But leaving his garment in her hand, Joseph escaped and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment with her and run outside, she called the household servants. "Look," she said to them, "my husband brought a Hebrew man to make a fool of us. He came to me so he could sleep with me. Then I screamed as loud as I could. When he heard me screaming for help, he left his garment with me and ran outside." So what happened was the wife was angry that Joseph rejected her and rejected what she wanted to do, the sinful thing that she wanted to do. So when she realized Joseph wasn't going to commit adultery with her, she was angry. She was probably offended. And so she decided to get even, to take vengeance on Joseph. So she made it sound like Joseph had tried to attack her and that she had screamed and he ran away. She put Joseph's garment beside her until his master came home. Then she told him the same story. The Hebrew slave you brought to us came to make a fool of me, but when I screamed for help, he left his garment with me and ran outside. When his master heard the story, his wife told him, "These are the things your slave did to me." He was furious. He had Joseph thrown into prison, where the king's prisoners were confined. So Joseph was there in prison. All right, important point, okay? We know that when Joseph was with his family, he was a little snobby, he was a little arrogant. He didn't deserve to be beaten and sold as a slave, but we could almost say, his actions made his brothers angry enough to do that, right? But in this instance, Joseph has been working hard. He has been serving God. He's been serving Potiphar. He did nothing wrong, right? Joseph was blameless. He was doing the very best that he could. He was being successful. He did nothing wrong. But still, look what happened to him. He was falsely accused. He was lied about. And because of that, he was thrown into prison. And so that brings a question: how could something like that happen to Joseph when he wasn't doing anything wrong, when he was trying to serve God, and especially when he was rejecting something that he knew was evil? Why didn't God protect him? Why didn't God, make it so that the wife's story was that people knew it was false and Joseph wasn't thrown into prison? That's a question I want you guys to keep in mind, because it's a question that's going to come up again. We're going to see some more things. Let's finish this chapter. But the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him. He granted Joseph favor in the eyes of the prison warden. The warden put all the prisoners who were in the prison under Joseph's authority, and Joseph was responsible for everything that was done there. The warden did not bother with anything under Joseph's authority because the Lord was with Joseph, and the Lord made everything Joseph did successful. So look, that's nice, Joseph is successful, and the prison warden, trusts Joseph enough to let Joseph do all the work, but he's still in prison, right? He's still in prison and he did nothing wrong. So how can that be fair? And more importantly, how could God allow that to happen? That's a question for you guys to think about. Okay, maybe even talk about that with mommy. How could God allow something so bad to happen to Joseph when everything Joseph was doing was right? Okay, that's your question. Love you guys. We'll keep reading tomorrow. Maybe I'll catch something tomorrow that'll be interesting. We'll see. But I miss you, and I will talk to you soon.